In this video we will be taking a look at some of the most important elections in the history of WICSO. We will be looking at which states voted for the candidates, and the outcome of each election. Just a note, the people in these elections are not real. The first election we will be looking at is the Old Empire in 1990. This is the election that we saw the first anti-Cold War candidate be elected. We see that the anti-Cold War candidate saw success in the African states of the Old Empire, due to him coming from the Egyptian state. He also saw heavy success in the Caucasian region. Another notable stronghold for him was the European states, as they were more liberal and anti-war. Now, let's look at the pro-Cold War candidate's votes. We can see here that he scored heavy success in the south, especially from the holy cities, which is where he comes from, plus, the holy cities are very pro-war. He also sees success in Anatolia, due to their anti-peace ideals, popularized by the Hittites. An important thing to note is that he gained majority vote over the capital state of Babylon. The outcome of this election was a short rule by the anti-Cold War candidate, before he was assassinated. Next, let's look at the elections of the African Union in 1961. So, in this election we saw the independence movement of Morocco in full force. The Moroccan president had fled to Carthage, and a popular figurehead took control of the independence movement. Let's take a look at the votes that he got. So, we can see here that his support was very prevalent along the Atlantic coast. We also see slight victories for him in the Sahara Desert. An important thing to note about this election was that the elections were highly rigged, so we actually do not know the true vote percentage for either side, but we can estimate the vote percent for the centralist government in Carthage. Speaking of Carthage, let's see what votes they got. So, in the capital area, we can obviously say that there will be no separatist movement, but interestingly, just south, we see regions heavily in favor of the separatists. This is of course due to it being recently gained Libyan land. Moving down into the Sahara, we see it is very mixed, but most states voted heavily in favor of the centralists. The result of this election would of course be the African Union collapse. Now, let's look at the elections of Carolina in 1950. This was the first election of Carolina since its creation. This was when the nation was still very unstable, and the Texan independence movement was very prevalent, so let's see the states they won. So, as we can see, most of the states that ended up seceding from Carolina were strongly in favor of the movement, except some of the coastal states on the Gulf of Mexico, which were mostly influenced by their neighbors. Next up, we will look at another party in favor of seceding, the pro-Canadians. These states more so aligned with the new formerly French states, seeing the better situation for them in terms of stability. This would be a catalyst for the invasion during the war. Lastly, we will look at how even the central government was divided on the issue. We see the two parties of the Centralists and the Federalists. We see the Federalists not have much support, but they do have strongholds in Iowa and North Louisiana. With the centralist government, we can see they dominate over the heavily populated regions of the East Coast, which secured their victory in the election, leading to the Texan Civil War. In the war, the Centralists and Federalists would put aside their differences and work together in the war effort. After, they would establish a new government together. Next up, we will look at the elections of Korea in 2006. At this point in WICSO, we were deep in the ideology conflict between communism and fascism, and it is well represented here in Korea. First, let's look at the communists. We can see they are very strong in the former Amur regions. They also have even heavier influence over the state of Zia. Next, let's see the area that the fascists have control over. The fascist movement here is split into two regions over the peninsula of Korea, being in the south and north. However, these areas were very contested. Next, let's look at the Democratic Party. So here we can see that they have heavy influence over the remainder of the Korean peninsula, but also Japan. In fact, they had so much influence over Japan that when the Civil War broke out, Japan just split away entirely, even though they aligned with the central government. The final group we see here is a pretty small one, a pro-Chinese faction, that ended up just becoming another democratic rebellion. This election was definitely one of the most interesting in WICSO history. The final election we will be looking at is the Ethiopian elections of 1972. This election is very important to the series as it created one of the strongest nations in the modern day. We will first be looking at the Centralist Party. This was interesting, as in the Civil War, part of it broke away and turned into a democratic faction. We can see that they have heavy influence in the north, and it lessens as you go south. Next up we will look at the first independence movement, the Somalians. The Somalians were the only ones to really gain independence from this war, as the fascist government took control of the original country. Their area they have control over is pretty self-explanatory, however they do have a highly contested area in the north. Next up we have the fascists. These guys were prevalent in the south, where the majority of the population is the light red religion. They are pretty much the opposite to the centralists, as they lose influence as you move north instead of south. The final party in this hellhole of an election is the Hindu government, which is the brown religion. Most of their land is under their firm control, except the south, which is disputed by the fascists. The outcome of this election would of course be a civil war. Thank you for watching this video. This is a new concept for me, so I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see me do this again, let me know in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe.